Good evening, everyone. It's Thursday, Necro Thursday, and it's time for the Necromaniacs Horror Podcast. I'm here with Jeff. How's it going, Jeff?
Uh, excuse me. Pretty good, I guess. I'm getting over COVID, possibly.
Damn.
I was definitely sick this week, and my girlfriend is even sicker. She definitely has COVID. So I'm assuming that's what I'm getting over. So considering that, I'm doing okay. So forgive me if I sound stuffy or I cough.
You sound fine, dude. I know.
Oh,
Yeah, you're okay.
all right, cool. Great. So yeah, to answer your question, sure, I'm doing fine. How about you, man?
Doing okay. Couple of professional changes in my life coming up,
Yeah.
which is cool. I going back to my former employer. After I come back from this tour that we're kicking off next month, or in a couple of weeks, actually. Coming back to my old job, um, the other job, I had a cup of coffee with this other company,
Hmm.
wasn't feeling it, and decided to go back. And I was fortunate enough to have the opportunity to go back to a place that I worked at for many, many years, and working with people that I've had really good professional experiences with. And the takeaway is the grass is not always greener. So let's meditate on that for a minute when if you ever put yourself in a position where you are thinking about making a professional change in your life, make a list of the things that are good and bad about where you're at and where you're going, and use that as a method, as a tool in your decision making process. That's all I can say. So yeah, going through
I
that
think
right now.
that I think that would work for many facets in anyone's life. Like when we moved to Texas, we did same thing, pros, cons list. And yeah, and then you realize when you get there, you're settled in, like, oh, the grass isn't always greener on the other side. And that's not to say I don't like living here, but it's just, when something's new, it's exciting. And that
Yeah.
wears off after a couple months. And then how you really feel about something kind of starts to settle in.
Exactly, I've been getting better about my decision making over the last couple of years. But I used to just rashly do things, jump in like headlong into all kinds of stuff, and
Yeah, yeah, you
and
did.
yeah, and sometimes that shit didn't work out, and sometimes it did. But I'm coming from a more like composed sort of standpoint now, and not being influenced by other people and that sort of thing. Yeah, I mean, I'm not. I've let me revise that statement. There's a small circle of people whose approval I seek,
Hmm.
and sometimes they tend to influence my decision making process, which is connected to this previous move that I made to this other
Sure.
company for a while, and now I have to. I'm more aware of that, and I have to assess that and factor that into my decisions. So yeah, learning experience, but overall things are, that putting me in a positive direction, at least for the day-to-day stuff that I do to make money for a living.
Right. And at least it wasn't like a major, like you didn't move across the country or anything for this job or anything like that. So there's at least that.
Yeah, no, I was just like going across the Hudson, to New
Yeah.
York City. That's it.
Yeah. I know people who have relocated for stuff like that. And then they're like, oh, man, they hate it. And then you think you're going to see people trying to convince themselves they don't hate it.
Oh
It's
yeah,
tough to
totally.
watch. Yeah.
Even in this scenario, I was still trying to convince myself that no, this is great. It's like sick working here. And then, but stress and that discomfort in your body, just your body holds that stuff, man. So I was
Yeah.
like waking up at like 2:30 in the morning, not gonna be able to get back to sleep. I'd have like nightmares about my job. And like one night I woke up at like 3 and I was just like my girlfriend woke up, and when I woke up, because I was getting out of bed, and she's like, where the hell are you going? And I'm like, I gotta go. I gotta go. There's a thing I gotta check on this thing. I'm
Yeah.
working, and she's like, get back in bed. What the fuck is wrong with you? And I'm like, oh yeah, I don't know. I gotta go. She's like, relax, calm down, get back in bed. And I'm like, so that's a sign right there that you're in the wrong place. That's all I can say.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. Work stress dreams are really interesting. I still have stress dreams about being a waiter, and I haven't been a waiter for 20 something years, 22 years, and I still have dreams like about that. So I don't know what that's all about.
Yeah, man, stress, it's a killer. It's
It
something to
is.
really think about. And my other recommendation is like, because like mostly in life, I've just ate it, and pushed forward and be like, fuck it. It's like
Yeah,
you got to listen to these things, man. You know what I mean? It's like I would
totally.
endure things, these like I would endure things that were like totally unendurable for way too long. And it would take a toll on me emotionally, physically, etc. And I'm just not willing to do that anymore. And I guess that's a positive. And if I can recommend people considering those things whenever you're making decisions about, work or relationships or, whatever.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Interesting enough, I just did a rewatch of season one of Severance, and man, kind of relates to what we're talking about. I think I've thought even before I watched that show, like, man, wouldn't it be great to like if you could take a pill and you could just forget that you just worked 8 or 9 hours? Maybe that's the solution. Maybe severance should be a real thing.
Dude. Yeah. But then the other version of yourself is like in hell all the time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, which is a terrible thing to do. But it's I love that show so much, man. It's something I cannot stop thinking about whenever I'm watching it. Like all the possibilities. Would you or wouldn't you make a decision like that?
I'm really looking forward to like coming back at some point, hopefully.
It's been 2 years.
Yeah. And I hope they continue. I mean, it's been 2 years. It's sort of is pointing in a direction that is completely fascinating to me. And
Yeah,
I'm eagerly awaiting another season.
I am. But after doing a rewatch, I was like, you know what? If this show got canceled and this is all we ever had, I would be satisfied. Like, there's enough pieces there, I feel, where you can maybe put together what's happening. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know where they're going to go. So I'm very interested.
I could dig that. I could dig that for sure, But for me, I want the full on like because it almost seems like this like total Legatian like nightmare that they're dealing with.
Absolutely.
And
Although, on the flip side, sometimes a show like can start off great and then go on too long and just completely it just ruins it for you. Like the show Lost. I remember being really into season one, and then every season after, I liked a little less, a little less. And like to me, like the best mysteries or whatever is like things you come up with on your own. Like they give you the pieces, but they don't completely spell it out for you.
I feel you on that. Yeah, I just Lost was definitely a prime example of that, where it started off really compelling, and uh,
Yeah,
and and it just went off the rails. You know what I mean?
pretty quickly too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, and you've been checking out anything yourself?
Well, in an attempt to keep up to date and on schedule with the podcast in this upcoming tour, I've been watching a lot of stuff for the show, so
Okay.
that'll be revealed as time goes by. Mike and I have been doing this dive into Dario Argento and just Italian horror films in general. So I've been taking in a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, I loved your trauma episode, by the way.
Oh yeah, that was a great one, man. A
Yeah,
great
a lot of
great
fun.
movie rather. Last night, Tina and I watched Alone, which is actually pretty good low budget film about a woman traveling across the country and this guy abducting her and it kind of throws back to like those 70s films. It had like a 70s vibe, but without being nostalgic, with
Mm,
like the lurking highway car dude, you know what I mean? Like follower, that kind of thing.
right, right. Wow.
And
I
yeah,
think I've seen that. It's a
yeah,
couple years old, right?
yeah. The dude had a mustache, like he looked like the kind of guy who would like hurt women, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, yeah. Like a real Vincent Gallo type of guy or something.
yeah. And
Yeah,
yeah, so it was good. I thought it was pretty good. It really stressed her out because being a woman and
right.
it's like all these like trigger points were in it, and I was like, damn, yeah. And very good. I enjoyed that. I also we watched a docu-series on HBO. I would call this horror adjacent. It's
Okay.
Love Has Won, The Cult of Mother God. Have you heard of that?
I have heard of it. I've not seen it.
I would definitely check that out for sure, man. It's more, it's a true crime kind of thing. It's
Yep.
about this, millennial uh cult, primarily based online,
Hmm.
with gathering these people with this woman who had, there's like a Manson thing going on because like it's the woman who's like this kind of loser, weirdo, abusive mom who
Right.
assembles this cult around her, and these different, father gods come in, and the final guy is like this meth head, like criminal, and that shit just goes off the rails, man. But it's compelling, and
Okay.
I think the guy's name is Jason Castillo, who's like the final father figure in this thing. And the interesting thing that I thought was like the sickest thing about him is that he chose to be shirtless through the entire interview. You know what I mean? Like that's a
Yeah.
certain type of guy who just wants to be without his shirt when he's being formally interviewed on screen, you know?
Wow. I mean, God, even Henry Rollins keeps his shirt on when he's doing interviews. Jesus.
Yeah.
um, wow.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued. I am fucking gonna watch. Actually, the playoffs are today. I'm gonna watch that, but then I definitely want to check this out.
Yeah, and then that, and just continuing the True Detective season 4 thing, you know.
Yes, I haven't started yet. I've been trying to let episodes accumulate, so I can like just watch three in a row. I've been hearing a lot of interesting things about it. Like it's I've been reading it's the best show, the best season. And if you disagree with that, apparently you're a misogynist and racist. I've read that as well.
I've seen that too, and it's unfortunate that people are no longer allowed to have their own opinion about things. But I don't think it's the best season. I like Issa Lopez. I think she's a talented filmmaker for sure. I'm a fan of hers, and I was excited when she was announced as being the director of, and I think she wrote some of it too.
I think she wrote a
But
lot of it.
yeah, and it's like that. I was excited about it because I'm like, okay, cool. She's like a horror writer. I've always wanted this season to have, even I mean, the first season had a horror vibe, even though it was like grounded in reality. But
Yeah.
anyone who listened to Ralph and mine exploration of the season one, it's a, I consider it to be a weird tale, like straight up, like there's definitely,
Completely agree.
yeah, it's not a procedural. Season 2 and 3 were police procedurals. After
Hmm.
season 1, I still maintain that season 2 is the best season, and
I agree. I get a lot of shit from anyone or like look on the internet. They think you're an idiot if you like season two, but I didn't think it was that bad at all.
actually a future episode on Everything Went Black is me and Jackie from Into the Necrosphere. We're going to be doing the case for True Detective season 2, and we're going to do
Uh,
a dive into that with our pros and cons of that season. So,
yeah, definitely not as good as season one. I will agree with that.
well, the thing about, like, I'm a mark. Like, I was all over the Night Country. I mean, the whole everything about it seemed, it's everything I want True Detective to be.
Hmm.
There's a super, it's, you know, potentially supernatural element to it.
Hmm.
The title, the Night Country, it takes place in like a place that's plunged in 60 days of darkness. There's nods to The Thing. There's nods to cosmic horror in there. There's all sorts of cool atmospheric stuff. However, it hasn't caught with me, man. And it has nothing to do with the fact that, Issa Lopez is a woman or the main characters are women. I just think that the characterization is weakly written in some
Yeah,
ways.
yeah,
There
and
aren't
it's not to dismiss that completely. I'm sure there are a lot of like fucking trolls out there just because it is a woman that they're saying shitty things about it. I'm not saying that that's not the case, but I find that to be like a shitty defense of everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
yeah, yeah.
And
It's
Jody,
just like it doesn't protect your show from being bad, by
yeah,
saying things like that.
and I actually am a little disappointed because I think even Issa Lopez made some statements like that about how, well, if you don't like my version of it, then you're, a fanboy, whatever, bro. I'm like, no, it's not really it. The thing is,
Yeah,
like,
yeah, she
the
did.
writing,
That's right. Yeah.
just the layers of the characters out there. It's like Jodie Foster is incredible. She's a great actress. She's the high point of the entire series. I mean, of the season rather. Um, but if you go back to season 1,
Mm,
even the peripheral characters are interesting in that. And there's
yeah.
like there's elements to it where there's like a reality, like a realness to it that just is
Hmm.
not. And there's too much time spent on like the personal lives of the characters. Like, that should be encapsulated and incorporated into their character development. But the story is really cool, man. I want more of the story, and we're already on the third episode. And I'm
Right.
not saying I want everything explained to me, but I want more elements of the weird fiction part of this thing explored and what's actually going on. I mean, there's not to the first season. They talk about, the total organization. Russ Colt's dad is this character in it, like he's passed, but his ghost is part of the story.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
yeah, there's like not it's very I find it interesting, but I just wish it was better. Well, the writing is not there, and that's my
Well,
beef with it. It has nothing to do with the women or the characters. I think the character of Navarro is a little too heavy-handed for me, for my tastes. But you know,
hmm.
yeah, it's
Now,
just it's out. It's undecided whether or not I think it's good or not. It's at this point.
Nick, the show creator and writer, Nick Pazzolatto, he's not involved with this season, is he?
No, I think he's got some kind of executive role, but he's not a showrunner. No.
Yeah, well, that just means like it was his show. They have to put his name on it somehow, and he gets a
Yeah,
paycheck. But like, I mean, he's part of the reason why season one is so good. You know, it came out of his head. Of course, you have the amazing director Cary Shuganaka, who I think having one director do every episode was the right way to go. It stays within like what a like more singular vision. But I mean, it's his writing, man. Like that's his story. And if he doesn't write it, it's not going to have that feel.
and the other criticism I have, and it's not like you know, I gotta be careful how I say it. It's um what Issa Lopez did in creating this story is like she's influenced by season one, okay?
Mm,
Without being influenced by the things that influenced season one, if you get what I'm saying,
right. Oh
right?
no,
Like
no, totally. Yeah.
it's like she may disagree with that statement, but I just before we started talking, I was listening to because it's Sunday and tonight we're going to watch all three of the episodes in a row. So right before we started talking, I was watching some stuff on YouTube on True Detective, and there was a thing from season one, and there's Nick Pizzolatto's talking about just each episode and his development. He was like referencing all this shit, man, like the plague doctors and
Mm,
all this like Legatian philosophy and this Schopenhauer and like all this stuff. And I'm like, yeah, that's why it's so great because he's taking all these cool influences and and boiling it down into this incredible story. And it's like any time someone else picks up the mantle of something else and then tries to further it, like make a pastiche out of it, it's like
yeah.
weak in a lot of ways. Like even like in the wake of Robert E. Howard's, work, there's been tons of other writers like Lynn Carter and Elsprig de Camp who continued with the Conan pastiche, and the stories just
Hmm.
weren't as good because they weren't pulling from the same places that he was coming from. And I mean, to me, like season one of True Detective was so like such a almost a literary experience. It wasn't. It was more than just television for me. There was
Hmm.
almost a literary experience that I respond to it in that same way. And like I want to like season four. Like I have no problem with anyone, whatever, you're a woman, you're gay, you're lesbian, cool, whatever. You want to like have tattoos on your neck and be a cop, right on. Good for you.
Yeah.
Face
Yeah.
piercings, more power to you. But you got to come packing lunch, man. You got to pack heat with this, and I'm still not really sure whether or not this delivers.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I'm very, very much looking forward to getting into it. I think three episodes in, yeah, I can probably start watching it because it's only what eight is it, six or eight episodes?
It's 8 episodes total.
Wow. Okay. All right. Um, yeah, really looking forward to that and adding my 2 cents to that conversation.
Oh yeah.
Um, I watched a couple things myself, real quick. Um, have you seen the new Nicolas Cage film Dream Scenario?
Want to, but I haven't seen it yet.
It's fantastic. One of the best movies of 2023. Liked it a lot. It plays more like a horror movie than I expected too. Like it's not a horror movie, but it's got that. I mean, it deals with nightmares and dreams, so of course, that's going to have some horror elements to it. But it even looks like it was maybe like it could have been shot in the 70s. I absolutely loved it. Nicolas Cage brings it, man, he's great. When he's like there and really into it, it shows on the screen.
That's killer, man. I definitely want to see that. That looked really interesting to me.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I can't recommend it enough. Another thing I can't recommend enough, just debuted on Shudder. It's the first good horror movie of 2024. And considering it's only January, this is a really great sign. It's called Destroy All Neighbors, starring
Yeah,
Jonah Ray Rodriguez and Alex Winter of Bill and Ted's fame, and the director of the movie Freaked, which is one of my all-time favorite cult classics. And this movie, Destroy All Neighbors, is definitely in that vein of like weirdo midnight movie cult classic. Uh,
yeah,
we might talk about it eventually, so I'll try not to say
yeah.
too much. But I fucking adored this movie, man. I really liked it.
You put that in
And
the text in the thread, and
yeah,
I'm interest is definitely peaked on that one.
curious of what you'd think of it. It's definitely, it's very funny, but it's pretty out there. And man, I this is not horror, but I just rewatched Whiplash for maybe the fifth time. Have you seen Whiplash?
I want to say I have. I'm trying to remember what I want to. I feel like I have seen that. Yeah.
That's about the jazz school, and the dude from Oz is the teacher. What's his name? Schillinger.
Oh no, I never saw this movie.
Oh, you got
I
to see
saw.
this movie. It's one of my favorite films of the last 23, 24 years. I think it's incredible. And J.K. Simmons he won an Oscar for his role in it. He is really great. Again, it's not a horror movie, but it has elements of it that make you extremely uncomfortable. uh, it's very, very good. If you haven't seen that, I highly, highly, highly recommend it.
Totally down. Yeah, I love JK. He's like a workman. That dude is like has like the best work ethic out of most actors. He does like commercials and like any you see him everywhere. He
He's
played
great.
Yeah, he played J. Jonah Jameson in the Spider-Man movies. He's like all over the place.
And he's great in that. And he played Gordon in Zack Snyder's Justice League movie.
Right. Great.
And it's a shame that well, maybe it's not a shame that universe didn't go anywhere, but Zack Snyder made some cool choices in casting, and J.K. Simmons as Gordon was like a stroke of genius. Like, I'm like, wow, that's perfect. And we didn't really get much with that character. Maybe I don't know, like 2 minutes, 3 minutes of screen time.
Yeah,
It's
totally.
too bad what could have been. But yeah, and like I said, rewatched Severance season one. If you haven't seen that, people need to get on it. It's one of the best shows I've ever seen. And yeah, that's about it.
Right on. Let's shout out the other horsemen. So of course,
Yes.
kicking the week off, we've got Harwolf 666 brought to you by Brandon Legion. Up next, Into the Necrosphere by Jackie Smith. And this week, recently, I appeared on that show for the top 10 metal records of 2023. And that's always a blast. And it's something I look forward to every year, doing that with Jackie.
Yeah, but
Wednesday is Everything Went Black, which is the long running thing that I do, which is like, I don't know, you could call it a variety show, a variety pack of stuff. Um, Thursday is Necro Thursday, or it says Necromaniacs with Jeff and Mike Scandato. Friday is Spitball Media, brought to you by John Draper, Mike Scandato's brother. Saturday is a day off. So go out there, enjoy yourself. Winter is here, but before you know it, spring will be here too.
mm-hmm.
Sunday, Carl Hikara brings us Soul Knox, which is devoted to all things dark, esoteric, macabre, that sort of thing. Carl and I are continuing our collaborative show called Darkness Weaves, where we explore the work of Carl Edward Wagner, a relatively obscure dark fantasy and horror writer. And right now we're full swing into the Kane stories, Kane short stories. So check it out. That shows up on Soul Knox and on Everything Went Black in alternating months. Out there in the void, lurking in the shadows, we have Iblis Manifestations, brought to you by Cheyenne of the great band Trivax. And Trivax, their 2023 record figured very high on our top 10. So if you haven't
Really?
listened, so yeah, it's if you haven't listened to that episode yet on Necrosphere, check it out. And Jackie and I have a lot of great things to say about that record.
I should check that out.
Yeah, and then we had a fun time. We talked about True Detective too on that show.
Okay, great. Yeah.
Um, so yeah, if you also if you want to drop us a line on the Necro phone, you can hit us at 908-913-0782. 908-913-0782. And this week we only have one voicemail from our buddy Mike from Telford, Pennsylvania. So here we go.
Hey, Necro, it's Mike from Telford. It's Friday, just on my way home. What a fucking day today, guys. One of them days where everything goes wrong and all the shit you know to do to fix what's going wrong doesn't fucking work. So I got to work tomorrow now because of that fucking horse shit. But just wanted to say hello and listen, guys, I'm going to be 49 in a month. Like, I'm not punching anybody anymore. And the last time I got punched was that fucking MDF security guy fucking hit me 5 or 6 times, and it was a total misunderstanding. We hugged it out later, but that's the last time I've been in any kind of scuffle. I hope them days are over. Trauma was a great fucking episode, and the last couple days, me and my girl have watched 2 movies that starred Gail Honeycutt and David Hemmings. And they were both from the early 70s. One of them called Voices, which kind of gave me like a vibe of a movie from the 70s called The Other. And it wasn't bad. But the other one was called Fragment of Fear, and that was much better. It was kind of a mystery. That was a much better movie. If you ever get a chance, check them out. I had the Blu-rays on Indicator, Powerhouse Films. That's a cool label. They had a sale and I picked them up. But they're cool movies. They're not classics or nothing, but they were good enough to watch. And look forward to next week. The Trauma episode was great. And if you guys do the other, Stendhal Syndrome, that'd be awesome. Any of the later on, Dario after that, he's real hit and miss, but I love that motherfucker and I'll always check out whatever he's doing because when he hits, it's like nobody else. So. All right, guys, I'm on my way home. My vinegar syndrome shit should be here today, and I look forward to next Thursday, brothers, and hope you're all right. Have a good weekend. Later.
Always great hearing from you, Mike. And
Mhm.
as if you've been listening before, I can relate to work stress. So I think both of us can relate to that. So there you go.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Always love hearing from Mike. Always has something interesting to say.
Yeah. And I haven't seen Voices or Fragment of Fear. Have you seen those, Jeff?
No, voices. I mean, what he was, it sounded familiar, but I don't think I've seen it.
But he did say that reference The Other, which I'm assuming is the 1972 film The Other, which is probably in my top 20 favorite horror films of all time, featuring the
Really?
twins Holland and Niles. One of the creepiest movies I've ever seen.
I have it on DVD. I don't think I've ever watched it.
Oh man, you got to go for it. It's an excellent movie.
The other 1970. I'm gonna double check when we're done talking that I do have it, but I seem to remember seeing that in my collection when I was reshelving it.
So that brings us to this week's feature, which is Netflix's Leave the World Behind.
Mm.
Screenplay and directed by Sam Esmail, who you might remember from Mr. Robot, the TV show that put Rami Malek on the map. Have you ever checked that out?
I didn't. Although when I did see that Sam Esmail came from TV, I was not surprised at all.
Yeah, yeah. I quite like Mr. Robot. I thought it was a
Yeah.
cool you know series. I thought it was pretty good.
I- I've heard a lot of good things about it, but I just never. I don't know. I don't know. I never carved out the time to watch it.
Based on a book by Ruman Alam. So there you go. It's based on a piece of literature that was put out there. Released October 25th, 2023, American Film Institute, and then on November 22nd, 2023 on Netflix. And apparently this had a short run in the theaters too. I don't know if you're aware of
Hmm.
that.
I was not. No.
A arduous 140 minutes in length.
A long one.
This could have been like I feel like this could have been a series actually.
Yes. It. Yeah, I agree. It has a very TV feel to it.
An ensemble cast featuring some Necro favorites actually.
Hmm.
Of course, Ethan Hawke, which we become pretty big fans of his, plays Clay Sanford, Julia Roberts, the sister of Eric Roberts, as
It's a great way to put it.
I mean, her career has definitely eclipsed Eric Roberts' career.
Just
But
a
I
bit.
love Eric. I love Eric Roberts though,
I do too.
and she plays Clay's wife Amanda. Uh, their daughter Farrah McKenzie as Rose, and their son Charlie Evans as Archie. Like, who the hell names their son Archie?
The names are very strange in this movie. Like his name, Ethan Hawke's name is Clay. When's the last time you met someone named Clay?
Um, Mahershala Ali as G.H. Scott, and Mahala, Myhala as Ruth Scott, his daughter. And of course, we have a small part played by Kevin Bacon as Danny.
Mm. Small but small but important role.
I gotta tell you, man, I like the action between Ethan Hawke and Kevin Bacon in this movie.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons I wanted to cover this movie because I felt so all over the place watching it. Both times I watched it, my opinion was going back and forth, whether I liked this or not. And there's a lot happening. Some of it is so very on the nose, and some of it I think flew over my head. So I thought, Mike will have an interesting take on this. We should talk about this one.
Yeah, it's
And
there's definitely some themes here that I think are interesting, and I am on the fence about whether or not I like the movie. You know what I
oh,
mean?
me too. It should be noted. I normally don't try to read too. I try not to read too much about movies we're going to cover because I'd like to have my own opinion and not be swayed by someone else's. But after I watched this for the first time, I looked up a few things about the movie. And one of the more interesting things, this is produced or co-produced by the Obamas.
Really?
Yes, Barack and Michelle Obama served as producers on the movie. They were not in name only producers. They had notes and ideas for the director.
Wow. Damn, there's
Which
probably like mad conspiracy theories running around now on the right wing media. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
Alex
exactly.
Jones must be going nuts over this right now.
Yeah. That certainly made the movie I mean, that kind of put it in a different light for me. I was like, oh wow, that's really interesting. There's some things in this that feel differently now. Um, this movie clearly has something to say about society as a whole. But as a straightforward, just like a film, I'm really not sure about how I feel about it. There's some aesthetic choices in this movie that I find absolutely bizarre, and tonal shifts that just don't feel right. I mean, like take the opening of the movie. I don't think I've ever disliked a movie so quick, like before the opening titles run. you have this monologue from Julia Roberts' characters, and she's packing everyone's bags, and she said, "We're going on an impromptu vacation with the kids." And she looks out the window longingly and then says, "I fucking hate people." um, and I thought, she's talking like someone would talk on Facebook or Twitter or something like that. And the longer the movie went on, the more I thought, I think that's the point.
Yeah, definitely. That was exactly about the feeling I got from it. Like I went into this thing cold, and I was thinking to myself, like that studied cynicism that she has is
Yes.
so predictable and so like, oh, of course you hate everyone. How many times have I heard some fucking entitled cunt say that? You know what I mean? It's like, oh,
Exactly.
I hate people. It's like, okay, cool. What's the alternative? You know what I mean?
Right, exactly. And they live in Park Slope
Yeah.
and they have this like nice family. They all have like really good jobs. One thing I did notice about the movie, it opens up in a blue room. They drive a blue car. Julia Roberts is always wearing blue. Uh, didn't quite connect the symbolism of that, but it has to mean something.
Okay. I didn't pick up on that. So I
Yeah,
don't think
everything is blue. Like the signs at the grocery store are blue. There's kind of like a blue hue to some of the rooms, and I was like, oh, I wonder what they're trying to say with this. And it's probably very obvious. I just completely missed it.
let's like ruminate a little bit on just the character of Clay and Amanda because you touched on something interesting that they're definitely people who are doing well in life. You know what I mean? They're not struggling um at all, really. Yet
Yeah,
they are. She's deeply dissatisfied with life to the point where she's become has this misanthropic cynicism, which that in and of itself, I think, is like a statement in the film and part of the theme. You know what I'm trying to say?
oh yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, they have this kind of like she's it didn't make a lot of sense that her character would have that cynicism. I forget what her job was, but I know it was something very, nice, or like, something that would pay well. And of course he's a professor, and Clay is just sort of happily going through life, whereas she isn't. um
Yeah. Yeah. Clay is probably you get the sense that Clay is like because there also isn't there like a commentary about him smoking or something like that too?
Yeah, there is. She's like, I know you sneak cigarettes every once in a while. We're on vacation. I want you to enjoy yourself. And she buys him a pack of cigarettes. One of the few things in the movie that I felt didn't really evolve into anything. I'd like to point out Clay is wearing a Bikini Kill shirt for part of this movie too, which seems important. That's a decision you make, like if I would have to imagine whoever made this film, or Sam Esmail, however you say his name, probably knows like the significance of the band Bikini Kill.
Yeah, and so let's describe that a little bit. So I mean, back in the 90s, there was this whole riot girl movement of female empowerment, and Bikini Kill were sort of the leaders of that whole movement in a lot of ways. Kathleen Hanna was like the
Mm-hmm.
singer. She went on to do a bunch of other stuff after Bikini Kill, but that was like a really heavy duty feminist thing going on in the 90s. It was a positive thing. Like I think it was cool. Not my cup of
Yeah,
tea musically, but the bands definitely were like intense and had this like energy around them, which I thought was really, really good, for young women to get involved with, and as a man, he's wearing this t-shirt, which I think is showing his character as being kind of like just like an accepting guy, like a dude who's not against anyone. He's like wants people to do well. He wants people to leave him alone. He wants to continue doing whatever his work is, and not he's not he doesn't share the misanthropic cynical life view that Amanda has.
right, exactly. Yeah, and their daughter Rose just wants to watch Friends.
Right. And
um,
she's very much of that younger digital generation, where everything is online, and the real world is equal to the digital world in a lot of ways.
Right. Yeah. And their two kids. I thought the son was a little kind of underwritten. I don't know. I think like you said, this should have been a series, and some things just feel underdeveloped. And I thought like the son Archie was just sort of like there, to be like a plot device later in the movie.
Yeah, definitely. And but he's just once again a little bit older than Rose, but he's a teenager, so he's feeling all the hormonal stuff that like a young boy would feel
Right. Right.
life, and kind of like clouded his maybe some of his judgment is clouded by the relentless search for female companionship or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, exactly. That's really hinted at in the movie, but again, I felt like it was a tiny bit undercooked. Uh, like a lot of things. Okay, so they go on this vacation, and the first big set piece, what? They go to the beach, and there's an oil tanker coming closer and closer to the shore, and they eventually realize it's not going to stop. It's going to crash onto the beach, and I don't know, like one of my complaints about this movie is it doesn't feel cinematic at all.
No, definitely not. Like that
Like,
obviously was this like heavy duty CGI like scene coming at them, and I'm
yeah,
like,
it was kind of funny. It reminded me of watching like an old like movie where green screen was like a new technology. When they're running from the oil tanker, you can almost feel the actors in the green screen behind them. Like it was very like it wasn't as big of a set piece, I feel like, as it should have been. And it's one again, the aesthetic choices in this movie are weird. Like you could cut that scene completely and then you don't really miss anything at all. It's just a little bit of like, set decor. Do you know what I mean? Like I think the core of this movie takes place in the house. This almost could have been like a play feel to it.
I was
And
thinking the same thing, man. Where it's almost like this story would have been better adapted by like Benson and Moorhead or something like that. You know what I mean?
yeah. Or like, or even like, thinking about like the 70s era of Roman Polanski when he did a lot, things set in an apartment and it's more of a cat and mouse sort of thing, which they hint like you kind of think the movie's going to go there, but it doesn't. But
Right.
this oil tanker is supposed to be like this big setup. And, after watching it, I was like, it was cool, but like it didn't add much to the movie at all in in the long run. It was just sort of like there. It looked cheesy. Um, I think it had something to say, whereas the way that people reacted to it, people are sort of half-heartedly running from the oil tanker while filming it. I think that's the main reason that
Yeah.
the scene is in the movie. Just wants to show how people react to these insane things happening around them.
That's a good point, actually. Yeah, that's probably why it was there. But I think that while I was watching this film, like it felt like it could like the story, it didn't have to be on such a large scale to get the point across.
100%. The most interesting parts of the movie take place in a room with people talking. That's what this movie, I think, was, and I don't think the filmmakers fully realized that.
Yeah. Like
Um,
it's not like a disaster film. You know what I mean?
right, exactly. But it has those weird elements of it that could just be exercised from the movie completely, and I think it would be a tighter, better movie.
Because now this is when things really start popping off when you realize there's something wrong. We start seeing news reports of the Wi-Fi goes down and
Mhm.
that um really upsets Rose, who seems to be more or less oblivious to this whole thing, and the only thing that really matters to her is watching the season finale of Friends.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
the fact
Friends
of
is a
that,
very important thing in this movie.
and realistically, that show probably aired way before she was even born.
Yeah, yeah,
Because how
very
old do
true.
you think Rose was? Like maybe 11 or something like that.
Rose was supposed to be 13.
Right.
They mentioned it a couple times in the movie. I think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, she Julie Roberts says 13 last month. So yeah, she's just turned 13.
Yeah, and Friends like wrapped in like the 90s, I think, right?
Something like that. Yeah. I never watched Friends. I don't know if you did. I doubt it.
No, hell no, absolutely not. But however,
Yeah.
I have to say something though. Jennifer Aniston, who I find on screen not very attractive.
Hmm.
I saw her one time in the city when I was taking a lunch break, and it was like I used to always take my lunch like after like around 1:30 or something like that to avoid being in a crowded space, So like I
Hmm.
was eating lunch one time, and I saw Jennifer Aniston walk in. There was like maybe only about 8 people in the restaurant, and she was sitting with someone who's probably like, like a manager or some agent or
Hmm.
something like that. Striking, very striking lady.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. She's good looking.
Yeah, striking.
Little side note there, but yeah, sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with you. Kind of reminds me of the time when I lived in New York City and I literally bumped into Jennifer Connelly, the actress. Yeah. What's that?
That's apples and oranges, if you ask me.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, quite awkward to say the least. But anyway,
Yeah.
what the hell were we talking about?
We're talking about this movie. Yeah.
No, right, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, like things are starting to go astray, and Clay and Amanda are up having a drink, playing Jenga, letting loose, enjoying their vacation, even though they seem completely oblivious to everything that's going on around them. Then they get a knock at the door in the middle of the night, and it's Mahershala Ali and his daughter. I'm sorry, Mahershala Ali's character is. I have his name written down as George Washington.
His name, like based on the stuff online, it's GH George.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
GH Scott. GH Scott.
okay. G.H. Scott. I don't know where the fuck I got George Washington from.
George
Uh,
Washington.
I was drinking cough medicine during my second watch of this. So so yeah, it's GH and his daughter Ruth. And again, this is kind of an interesting classic setup. And this should have been the heart of the movie. They show up and they say it's their house. And there's all this trouble going on in the city. There's a blackout. And Clay is very welcoming, like, hey, it's your house, of course. Come hang out. And Amanda is not on board at all, to say the least.
Yeah, and that's interesting because such a that's a really good plot element because and this is where I thought the movie was going more into
Yeah,
this realm of like, who someone's lying, this is like these people are here to like, I don't know, like abduct someone or, that kind of thing.
right.
And it's like the reality is like if I'm assuming that they're staying there through like what's that service called again? Where you stay
Airbnb.
like an Airbnb situation where
Yeah.
what would happen if someone just decided to come home? Like, is that like how would that be handled? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I honestly don't know.
So right
And
then there's an odd vibe to that. And of course, like in some ways, Amanda is right to be like, hey, we paid, what are we supposed to do? We paid for this. Clay is a little bit more understanding. He's got his, bikini kill shirt on, and he's like, well, let's all stay together.
yeah. Yeah. And yeah, and Amanda's asking him all sorts of questions and he's answering them. But there's like little things where he's like he gets out his keys to unlock the liquor cabinet and the first couple keys don't work.
Yeah.
Like almost hinting at like, oh, this guy's not who he says he is. And Amanda asks for his ID and he's like, of course. Oh, shoot. I left it in my jacket. He's got an excuse for everything.
How
Uh
leaves their license in their jacket. That's the other thing too. It's like it's really, really sketchy.
yeah, I would not buy that
No
at
way.
all. And he does eventually get the drawer open and there's a gun in there and just little hints at something more sinister going on. And I really, really liked this part of the movie a lot. I was kind of hoping that would that was going to be the heart of the movie, but this all kind of dissipates, goes away. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like, I guess they are who they say they are. Like they, even though they kept hinting that maybe they're not, but that goes away pretty much in the next setup, the next scene.
And it wasn't even like a red herring or anything else. It just was like a maybe the book has it go differently, but if that's the case, they should have just taken this out, I don't know. It's
Yeah, I mean, I think again, maybe it's just to show again set up how Amanda is deeply cynical, uh, maybe a little bit racist. They definitely bring up race a couple times in this movie because the daughter, the George's daughter, Ruth, is sort of like the flip side to Amanda. They had the same sort of cynicism, but in different ways. Like they're all they view the world the same, but like they are the most combative people in the movie. Like they don't get along.
and the other thing that's interesting too is that the GH and his family are more wealthy than Clay and Amanda.
That's true. Yeah, this
Yeah,
is
because
like
they
their
talk
vacation
about
home.
yeah, this is like their vacation home. And they also there's a thing where they mention like where they oh yeah we live in Park Slope and the daughter's like oh yeah I'm renting a place there or he says something like, oh it's nice affordable
Yeah,
and
yeah,
and if anyone knows Park Slope from I don't know guys like me and you it's definitely at the fringes of like our affordability to be honest you know what I mean.
yeah. It's affordable, I guess, if you're a professor, like you know, and yeah, it's not cheap. It's not
I mean,
cheap.
if you had a family, you'd probably be spending like 5 grand a month on a brownstone for you for like a 2 bedroom or something like that. You know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, which is
That's
that's definitely rich for me. It's a little rich for my tastes.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And yeah, it's cool you picked up on that. I totally forgot about that line. Very, very interesting stuff. So yeah, there is this race dynamic and a little bit of class dynamic between them, although Amanda and Clay are doing all right. They're obviously not balling out like these like George is. And like, yeah, that this seems to really irk Julia Roberts' character, and Ruth picks up on her vibe immediately, and says, "Gee, I wonder what's so untrustworthy about us." They don't come out and really say. She doesn't come out and say what she's thinking, but we all know what she means.
Yeah,
They're black, and
yeah,
and again, I feel like, man, Ruth is so on the nose with everything she says, and so is Amanda. This seems more like two people having an argument on Twitter,
yeah,
which, again, by the end of the movie, you're like, I think that's the point.
yeah. I agree, and I found both of those characters to be very distasteful, to be honest. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, they both annoyed the living shit out of me. And again, I think that's the entire point of these characters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So things continue to seem to be unraveling around them, and you know, at one point, Rose goes missing. So there's this whole impetus to try to find her. And everyone has these excursions out into the world to find Rose. And this is where we learn more about what's happening. For instance, there's a plane that fell out of the sky. There's all these Teslas, which I found funny that they're Teslas, um,
Yeah, yeah.
clogging the roads, and then also operating on their own, you know? And
Right.
a series of leaflets are found that were written in Arabic, death to America, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So the picture is slowly starting to come together that that there's potentially some kind of attack going on, or hackers are involved in this sort of thing.
Right, exactly. Yeah, George goes into a neighbor's house or something and sees dead bodies, and yeah, planes crashing, and Clay goes out to get a newspaper, which I found humorous.
Yeah,
um,
exactly. Well, if you think about it, it's like there's all the online stuff's down, so maybe
right.
print media, like, that's actually something I was going to bring up. It's like going back to this kind of Luddite existence of physical media, in a world where like everything virtual seems to have crashed. What would be
Mm,
like only reliable source of information, quote unquote reliable, if you believe in any media, would be
right.
a physical newspaper, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a funny thing because Clay doesn't know how to do anything without GPS, so he gets lost. So like this excursion to go get a newspaper goes horribly wrong. And I don't know if it was meant to be funny, but I found it kind of funny. And here we have Clay, who's like this nice, great, accepting guy, kind of just happily going through life. Sees a woman who is Latina
Yeah.
on the side of the road. He can't understand her, what she's saying. She's clearly in distress, and he just drives away. So maybe Clay isn't who he appears to be. And again, that's one of the themes of the movie. We all think we're virtuous. We all think we're the good people, but we're all pieces of shit. you know, I found that to be one of the overarching themes later on in the movie. Julie Roberts even kind of comes out and says it, like, we order free range chicken and drink through paper straws to think we're good people, but we're not.
Yeah, well, at the very least with Clay, he's one of those guys who maybe overestimates his handiness in stressful situations. You know what I mean? Like there's certain people out there who want to believe they'll handle things in a certain way, and then when
Yeah,
they're actually faced with that situation, they fold. You know what I mean?
it, exactly. Yeah. And I got to say, that was one of the better scenes in the movie as far as tension goes, with him running from. It looks sort of like it's a drone like spraying chemicals, but it turns out to just be red flyers.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I thought too. I was like, oh, what's going on now? I was like, this sort of poisonous gases or something.
Yeah, I'll say one thing positive about the movie is I never knew, like, you didn't know where it was going to go. Like it sort of went off in all these different directions, and some of it works, some of it doesn't. Like Rose, this thing, man, I was curious what you thought. The thing with the animals didn't didn't make any sense to me.
No, me neither, and I was just like, that seemed, once again, maybe they expand on it in the book, but
Mm-hmm.
the only thing I can think of is all right, now one of the other elements that happen is like there's like this what we learned is probably like some sort of microwave weapon where this like noise happens.
Yes, yeah.
And now is that maybe that somehow resonated with animals, or you know what I mean? I don't know. Like that's the only thing I can think of.
Well, the deer showed up before the noise.
Ah, right. Okay.
And maybe it's because I live in a house where I have deer on my lawn constantly, like, up to like 12, 15 at a time. There's nothing threatening or scary about them. Uh, so I thought that was sort of a weird choice, because the deer have this sinister feel to them. Like, they're very CGI. They look bad. And I don't know. At one point, flamingos start hanging out in their pool. I'm not sure what the significance of that was. It doesn't work at all. Other maybe it's just to say the animals know something's up. I think someone says something that in the movie, but they keep coming back. Like, part of the big climax of the movie is a bunch of deer surround a cabin, and it goes nowhere. It adds nothing to the movie. I don't know why it's in there.
Yeah, me neither, and it was like pointless in a lot of ways, and
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, maybe
totally.
there was like an implication that, all right, humanity's on the way out, and the natural world is going to be empowered somehow. I don't know. That's the only thing I can grab at throughout this whole
Yeah,
thing.
but yeah, they keep going back. I remember there's a great scene in the movie 28 Days Later where they see a horse running wild while chaos is happening in the world. Like, that's the way to say something like that. Just a quick shot of a horse or something like that. Not mean, they keep going back to the deer and the flamingos, and I, it must have gone over my head whatever it was trying to say, or it was just unnecessary. Which I don't know. I thought it was silly. I mean, literally, the climax of the movie is deer, a herd of deer, sort of just standing there looking threatening to these people. It was silly.
And deer aren't particularly threatening. You know what I
Right,
mean?
exactly. Yeah, like maybe I don't know. I'm sure there's a different animal you could pick. I mean,
Dude,
I
tell you what, animals are threatening. And the quick aside is when we were recording at Applehead Studios up in the Hudson Valley, and they have like a
mhm,
it's like a farm, and there's also cabins to stay in. So one morning I was up drinking coffee, and there was like four goats, right? And one of
mm,
them was like this black goat with the horns and really intense eyes. And they spotted me and they all started walking towards the porch.
mhm.
They got up on the porch and the lead goat, the black one, was like sizing me up, man, like looking in my eyes. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
looking at like, who the fuck are you? Like, you
yeah.
know, I run this shit here. You know what I mean? And
Oh
I
yeah,
was like,
yeah, yeah, yeah. They make crazy noises too.
yeah, dude. And I was like, I'm like, oh man, this is like a situation I have here. You know what I mean? And
Yeah, yeah,
I'm like, I felt threatened, you know? And eventually something distracted him and they all ran away. But I was like, damn, that was intense, you know?
yeah. There you go. That or like even coyote. Like but deer. It was I don't know, man. That's a tough one to get over. Yeah. Um. So yeah, like some themes of this movie, they beat you over the head with, and some are just dumbfounding. Uh, but there is themes of over reliance on technology, of wanting distractions, just wanting to sort of go through life enjoying everything, and another thing, like again, people act like they care, but they don't really care.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
then, yeah, there's also okay. So Clay's son gets sick, right? He wakes up one day, he's puking blood, and his teeth are falling out. And this is what I meant earlier by him being a plot device. So they need someone to get sick so they can go find someone. And they're like, oh, wait, our friend Danny, who lives around here, the contractor, he'll know what to do. And my first thought was, why didn't they think of going to see him right away? You know what I mean? If you had a friend, if this was happening to you, Mike, wouldn't, if you had a friend who was like a survivalist or,
Yeah.
so wouldn't that be the first person you think of?
That would be the first person I would go to find out what's going on. You know what I mean? Maybe he's got like supplies or, which he does apparently, and medicine and things like that.
Right. Yeah. And so they go to see him. A lot's happened in between, but we don't need to spell out every beat of the movie.
Yeah.
And this is another one of the big climaxes of the movie. This scene with George, Clay, and Danny is intercut with Ruth and Amanda in a cabin looking for Rose that is surrounded by deer. So they try to build tension by cutting these two scenes together. And again, aesthetically, it doesn't work. The scene with Danny drags on for longer than it should. And the scene with Amanda and Ruth in the cabin goes kind of nowhere. They end up just screaming at the deer and they kind of walk away. Um, so again, cut that out and focus on the scene with Danny, which is more interesting.
Yeah.
Now, I think we're meant to think that Danny is a fool. Like there's a sort of a little bit of like comedy involved in that scene where he's like, it's the Koreans or the Chinese, one of the two, Like he just like, oh, this guy doesn't really know what the fuck he's talking about.
Yeah.
But
He's like being framed up as like one of these like Alex Jones, like, type dudes. Yeah.
yeah, but I mean he seems to be the one who was like, the most prepared for something like this. And there's this tension, Danny's like, get off my porch, get out of here. I'm not going to help you. And Clay again sort of spells out one of the themes of the movie. I'm useless. I can't do anything without my phone or GPS. The only thing I know how to do is to ask for help. So this is why I'm here. And Danny pulls a gun. They pull guns on each other. The gun from the cabinet comes back, George's gun. And it was a good scene. I wasn't sure how it was going to play out.
Yeah, the thing I enjoyed the most about it was just the interaction between Kevin Bacon and Ethan Hawke too, like the acting part.
Yeah,
I
you have
thought,
three great actors in the scene. Yeah, that was cool. And in the end, Danny decides to do the right thing and give medicine for $1,000. Like they had that $1,000 refund that they got from George for interrupting them comes back into play.
which is funny because that $1,000, as we surmise, is going to be useless in the future.
Right. Yeah. He's like, yeah, I knew we'd go back to an old fashioned bartering system, even though that's not what that is. You exchange goods for money. But yeah, I felt like they played out a little comedically in the end. Again, like I think you're supposed to think Danny is, one of these right wing nut jobs who believes in conspiracy theories, like you said, Alex Jones type. And this scene again, this is where they really kind of spell out the point of the movie. After like when George and Clay get back in the car, George says, "Look, this is what's happening. I think uh, we're being invaded," and he goes on and on about like the things to just disable a country: isolation, chaos, civil war. And I think the point of the movie is, I mean, that we are doing this to ourselves.
Yeah, yeah,
That
basically.
social media, or well, for a reliance on technology so much isolates us. Social media creates chaos and misinformation till we turn on each other, leading to a civil war, a complete collapse of society. I think that's what the movie is ultimately trying to say. Like the way Amanda and Ruth talk and act. Well, these are people you see on social media every day, like with these ridiculous blanket statements like, "Oh, don't trust white people," or "Oh, I fucking hate people." They're sort of over. There's purpose to these kind of the overwrought um, acting performances, and you were, I
Yeah, I
mean,
can't. That's exactly what I came up with. Just that interaction with Amanda and Ruth is like exactly like what bored people do on social media. And
yeah,
also I would even say one step further that technology and society has created boredom in our lives where people seek conflict in these unhealthy avenues like social media or like embracing certain ideologies, and
mm-hmm.
there's no real challenges in life, because like we talked about earlier about how Amanda and Clay are, what do they got to complain about? They live in Park Slope, they've got like money,
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
what's the tragedy? You know what I mean? But they find something, people will find something to rail against, even when things are generally going well in their lives, because they lack that outlet. And unfortunately, in our society now, it's become these like conspiracy theories, misinformation, chaos, picking sides on some completely fabricated political dispute, that sort of thing.
right, yes, exactly. And I mean, up until this point, I was invested in the movie, but I was kind of annoyed with it at the same time. And then when he spells it all, I'm like, oh, so this is not the movie's, obviously a metaphor for something else. And I mean, even so, this is something I found really interesting. Rosie, who's missing, the daughter, finds a bunker in a neighbor's house with a generator, everything she could need. At one point, she opens up to see like a pantry. Mike,
Oh
I
yeah.
didn't catch this, but I read something about it, and I was like, that can't be. But the second time through, I noticed is all the brands in the bunker of food are like basically canceled brands or like racially insensitive brands. Like there's Uncle Ben's, Aunt Jemima, Cream of Wheat that had like a sort of a back in the day had a stereotypical sort of person on the or a caricature on their logo. Barilla Pasta, which was sort of involved in that controversy. I don't know how long ago it was, where the owner of the company was against gay marriage, things like that. So all the brands in there are in that bunker are basically canceled brands. I don't know if you noticed that. I did
I
not
did
notice
not
it the
pick up
first
on
time.
that. I did
Yeah,
not.
I thought like, wow, what a weird thing to pick up on, but that can't. But there it is. Second time through, I saw it after someone pointed that out. I mean, I think the movie's clearly that's got to be intentional.
Oh yeah, for sure, man. Like someone set design that, with that intention. Definitely.
Yeah, and the movie ends with Rose watching Friends while the Friends theme song blares blares over the credits. Again, the world burns, and she just wants to watch Friends, and I guess that's supposed to be everybody, you know.
Very
I've
interesting.
heard, yeah, and knowing that the Obamas produced it really makes it even more interesting because it's not like the white liberals are the good guys in this at all. It kind of goes hard on them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
Um, but there are just some aesthetic choices in this movie that I just found utterly bizarre. Like the blaring hip hop song over the opening credits. There's a lot of wall to wall source music in the first like 20 minutes. Like I remember in the first like couple minutes of the movie, you've already heard like 3 or 4 different songs before you've heard a note of the score, which again, I just aesthetically just didn't like it. Closing on the Friends song, obviously there's a deep level of sarcasm there. The whole structure of the movie feels like episodic TV. Um, but overall, I kind of I don't know. Like obviously the message is right there, and this movie is clearly trying to get that point across. Um, it was interesting. It was definitely interesting. I'm still not 100% how I feel about it though.
Yeah. Um,
Like where are you at with
okay.
this?
As a movie, I didn't think it was that great. Okay.
Right.
But as like a piece, as like something to consider and spur you to think about stuff, I think it was excellent for that. So that leads into like my score on this film because our criteria is out of 5 and
Mhm.
3.5 is like watch it once, decent, but don't need to see it again. And that's kind of like
Mhm.
my take on this. So I give it a 3.5 out of 5. And for that reason, and like I said, we kind of talked about this earlier, this needed to be either 90 minutes or 4 hours long. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And to
Um
really tell the story effectively. And but like the themes in it, the thematic stuff I think was interesting. And a lot of it is uh touches on that whole bread and circuses thing from I think
mhm.
they attribute that to Juvenal, the Roman poet,
Mm.
talking about revolt and keeping people appeased by games and all this other stuff in the
Right.
Roman Empire. So it's like, of course, that good, all these like gadgets and watching Friends and having all this like streaming media to kind of blind you to the chaos and the downfall of civilization and that sort of thing. And that always that hit pretty hard on this and just the insipid nature of our culture. And that's like I thought it was really good. That was cool. So watch it
Yeah.
once, take that away, maybe spend less time on social media and that kind of thing. I thought it was cool.
Sure. 3 is my like lower recommendation. 3 is like, yeah, for me that's, watch it once. It's not that bad. So I kind of landed on a 3.5 as well because I agree. Like as a movie, it's messy. It's like it's either too long or not long enough. I
Yeah.
completely agree with you there. But it was an interesting movie that I found myself going over in my head, and I looking things up about it after I watched it. So yeah, I landed on 3.5 as well. This is definitely it has something to say. It little heavy handed in some parts, a little confusing in others, but it doesn't quite work as a disaster movie or whatever. But I don't know. It had some. It was interesting. I've watched it twice now. I don't think I'll ever feel the need to sit through it again. But first time through, it held my attention and got me thinking. So 3.5 for me too.
Yeah, it's interesting that you and I both hit the same score on it for sure. Yeah, like I said, it was once was enough. I watch it
Yeah,
again just for the show. Uh, I'm more interested to see what guys like Tucker Carlson and Fox News have to say about this movie.
yeah. Me too. I'm sure right wing media blew a fucking gasket over over this. I'm
Yeah.
sure they did. But I didn't watch any of that. But now I'm kind of curious too. You know what I mean? I didn't watch any of the YouTube takes on it or anything really. I just kind of went and Googled the name, and that's when I found some interesting things, like like the brands in the bunker, which I never would have caught the first time around.
Yeah.
That's yeah, that's kind of again. I wish I knew it. I don't know. I'm not sure what they were trying to say with that, but it's definitely speaks to something, I would imagine. So yeah, check this movie out. If you haven't, I hope you would see the movie before you listen to this episode. But yeah, there we go. 3.5.
Oh yeah. Well, thanks for listening, everyone, and we'll catch you guys all next week. Take care,
Bye now.
dude. Before you
Cool.
go,
Yeah.
uh, so yeah, as in the text I was saying, like I only got like 2 more weeks before I want to knock out some of these episodes.
Yeah.
So yeah, The Hitcher, and then that other film. Let's definitely do those two next. So let's throw some dates around.
Okay. What was the second film we talked? The Hitcher and Destroy All Neighbors?
Yeah, that was the one you brought up. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'm good. Any week, Saturday, Sundays, I'm good.
Okay. I'll do that. Probably I might even try to do both Saturday and Sunday next weekend just because I want to get it done.
Okay, cool. Just hit
That's
me up.
cool. That's cool to do. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, man.
All right.
Absolutely.
Also, Mike does not want to do threads because he finds it too depressing. So I'm not saying we do this before, in this period, but do you want to do threads at some
Sure.
point after I
Yeah,
get back?
I've never seen Threads, so that would be cool. I also brought up Meet the Feebles. I don't know if that's streaming anywhere, but that would
Yeah,
be
I
a
don't
fun
know.
one to do.
I want to check that out because there's an outcry for us to do threads. So
Yeah, I noticed that. Yeah, I'm down to do it. Is it a show or is it a movie?
I think it's a movie.
Okay.
Right now it's on Shutter, so we can watch it on
Okay.
Shutter. So all right.
So yeah, okay. Let's do the Hitcher next because honestly, I haven't seen that film in like 20 years, so I'm kind of looking forward to watching that again.
All right, man.
And
Talk to you later.
all right, man. Take care.
All right.
Bye.